Hello, my name is Rachel and I'm here today to do my wrap up for Jane Austen July. So I decided to wrap up the books that I had read for Jane Austen July separately to my wrap up just because, number one, read a hell of a lot of books this month, so need to cut that video down. And number two, I know that not everyone who watches my channel is really bothered about classic and Jane Austen stuff, and I also know that some people might be very interested in that, so I'm just going to dedicate a video to it, and then some people just don't have to watch it if they don't want to. The first thing I'm going to mention though is not a book that I read, but a book that I bought because I'm just so happy about it, and it is Northern Rabbit by Jane Austen, and this is the Penguin Clothbound edition. I found this for £3.99 in a bookshop, and it's not damaged, there's nothing wrong with it, it was just discounted that much, and like, it's so pretty. So I'm really happy that I bought this, and I just felt like I needed to mention it right now. The first book I picked up was actually the first book I finished this month, and I was very happy with it, and it was Pride and Prejudice by, I don't need to say that it's by Jane Austen because every book's going to be Jane Austen related. Just scratch that. Pride and Prejudice. But I didn't read this physical copy. I read the audiobook, which is read by Rosamund Pike, which I would highly recommend. I'm definitely going to be getting the Sense and Sensibility one soon whenever I feel like I want to reread that one. Rosamund Pike's voice is wonderful. The thing that I really noticed with this reread was Jane. And I hated Jane with this reread. There are moments when obviously, slight spoilers, but to be honest, you're probably familiar with the story of Pride and Prejudice anyway, so it's fine. Obviously, with the whole Wickham situation, we kind of find out who Wickham is and what he's done, and Lizzie goes to tell Jane, and Jane's just like, oh, well, you know, he's probably changed, and yes, he did something very bad, but, you know, his character is very amiable and he seems nice, so, you know, give him the benefit of the doubt, he might have changed. And then the stuff happens with Lydia. She goes back to Jane, and Jane's like, well, maybe he's better now, maybe, you know, he does really love her, maybe he does intend to make her a wife. And I was literally reading it this time around just like, how are you so fucking stupid? Like, oh my god. And it was really good because the last time that I read it and had that reaction to Mr. Bingley, and I was very much like disliking Mr. Bingley because he's so, again, amiable, he's so nice that it means he lets people walk all over him and he lets people convince him to not do what his heart's telling him to do or his head's telling him to do or whatever. He just like listens to other people because he wants to please everyone. Reading it the second time around and having the same kind of reaction to Jane, I was like, they really are perfect for each other because they're both pissing me off right now. I also, again, absolutely loved Caroline Bingley. I always love Caroline Bingley. I don't know what it is, I always love a bitch. Bitchy characters are my jam, and she is no exception. I absolutely adored her. Also, got quite annoyed at Lizzie with this reread because I started to look more at Charlotte Lucas and how that was a good decision for her, and Lizzie's attitude towards that decision and the way that she goes about voicing her opinion, I just thought was very childish and immature for the time, like to not understand sort of the class system and how Charlotte Lucas is like marrying up and she's making a good decision for herself, and just because it's not the same decision Lizzie makes and she didn't make it on the same grounds doesn't mean it's not a good decision for her. So I find that quite annoying as well. I'm saying I find things annoying, I find them annoying in terms of the way a character was and the way the story was, not in terms of like a dislike on Pride and Prejudice. I like that every time I read it I get a different impression of certain characters. I enjoy that a lot. It's not a negative of the book that I'm saying it annoys me, because I still really enjoy it, if that makes sense. So obviously it was 5 stars, it's always going to be 5 stars I think, so there was that one. The next thing I read was a little letter that is in this Classic Works from Women Writers. So in here we have a letter from Jane Austen to Fanny Knight in which she talks about marriage. I think it's Fanny Knight who is engaged, or she's thinking to get engaged, and Jane Austen kind of gives her some advice on, you know, marriage and agreeing to marriage and that sort of stuff, and it was very interesting. It's about a 3-page letter, but yeah, it was interesting to read. Then the next book I read is Mansfield Park, and I have done a full review of this book, so I will link that down below if you want to go and watch it. But I really did enjoy this book, and already, like, the further I move away from it, the more I'm liking it, the more when I look back on it I like it as well. I think it's a book that will really serve well on a reread. I absolutely loved the character of Fanny Price. I thought she was a wonderful character, and I don't think criticisms of this book really do her justice, because yeah, it makes me sad that people don't like her and people think she's a weak character, because I don't think she is at all. The standout of this book was definitely the Crawfords. Absolutely love Henry Crawford, and even his sister, I was like, I like you, in a Caroline Bingley, Lady Susan-esque kind of I love bitchy characters way. So really enjoyed this one, and definitely going to reread it. I gave it 3 stars, I think, but it's one that I feel like would probably be a 4 stars in the end if I had to like fully make a decision. But because I'm going off my initial reaction to it, obviously it's got 3 stars. The reason that it's got that is because I really didn't like Edmund and I didn't like the ending of it. And yeah, I just had a few slight problems. There's quite a distance in this book, so yeah, they were my main issues with it. Now, I can't remember what all the challenges are. I never really follow challenges, to be honest, but I know there was some to like watch adaptations or whatever, and I did watch 2 adaptations. So the first one was for Pride and Prejudice. I watched the miniseries, which I enjoyed very, very much. I absolutely love this miniseries. I think it's wonderful. I think the actors in here get the characters really, really well, especially the woman who plays Catherine de Bourgh. She is amazing. And yeah, I had a great time rewatching this because I love it. I would seriously just like rewatch it again tomorrow because it's great. And the other thing that I watched was an adaptation of Mansfield Park with Billie Piper in, which I hated. I watched it within a few days of finishing the book and I was just, no, not impressed. I didn't like the guy who played Henry Crawford in it. I don't think he got that like enigmatic Crawfordness across. I also didn't like the woman who played Mrs. Norris. I don't think she played her very well. The women who played the 2 sisters, the ones that are Fanny Price's cousins or whatever, they were alright, but I didn't like Billie Piper as Fanny Price. I don't think she did that well at all. I think she did play her as quite weak, which annoyed me. So yeah, didn't love that adaptation, unfortunately. If you know of any other adaptations, please leave them down below. I know there is one other one that I found, but I don't know if it's any good. I think it was from like 97 or something. I don't know. But yeah, if you have any good recommendations for adaptations of Mansfield Park, please let me know. Then the last thing that I read that was a full proper book for Jane Austen July was Bridget Jones's Diary. I listened to this on audiobook and I've never ever read Bridget Jones before. I've only ever watched the films, and I watched them a lot when I was a teenager and kind of didn't get it. And obviously now I'm a little bit older, I'm definitely starting to understand it a lot more, have more of an affinity with Bridget Jones as a character. Things kind of annoyed me, but also I liked them in the books. One thing that really annoyed me is that she is constantly keeping track of her weight, how many cigarettes she has, how much alcohol she has, things like that. And I think that like that fixation with body weight and with always knowing what your actual weight is really unhealthy, and I hate it. And so it was really hard to read that because I don't like that. It's something that makes me feel really uncomfortable. However, at the same time I was reading it like, this is exactly what society is like for women. This is what society tells women to do, with all like the billboards you see of like different heads on the exact same body size every single time. So it annoyed me and I hated it, but at the same time I thought it was such a perfect representation of actually what it is like to be a woman sometimes. A few things were just a little bit too perfect, like the way that she kind of left her job and then suddenly had a new job, and her new job was in TV. I was like, okay, like this isn't really what happens. So that was a bit annoying. Really hated her mum all the way through it. If she's meant to be a version of Mrs. Bennet, I don't like that. I really wanted the dad to turn around at the end and be like, no, I'm not taking you back. You've been horrendously horrible. But he didn't. Of course he didn't. So that was annoying. I did quite enjoy the way that the retelling worked with Mr. Darcy and how he gets involved with helping Bridget's family. So the way that they do it within the book is that the mum gets into trouble and he's a lawyer and he ends up helping her without saying that he's helped her, and then Bridget finds out. And obviously that's a retelling of the Lydia side of things in Pride and Prejudice, and I thought that was handled really, really well. I did also watch Bridget Jones' The Edge of Reason because I said I was going to watch the second one because I'd watched the first one a few years back. And the thing that I didn't enjoy with that is that they did a retelling of that again, but it was with Bridget, who was arrested abroad, and then Mr. Darcy pulled all the strings to get her out without telling her. I was like, you're kind of rehashing the same story now, because it doesn't work if you've literally just done that in the first film. So that bothered me. But yeah, I watched that for Jane Austen July as well. The other thing that I read was one of the essays in Feminist Don't Wear Pink. So I actually thought this was full of essays, and it is not, because the thing that I read was actually fiction and not an essay. But it is Bridget Jones' Feminism Today Diary by Helen Fielding, which I thought maybe she was going to be commenting on like the lasting legacy of Bridget Jones, but she's not. It's actually like she's written it from Bridget Jones' perspective, doing her diary again, but nowadays. So this starts on Monday the 16th of April 2018. It's about 10 pages. Again, she's got her little like count of her weight and her alcohol, but then what's been added to it is her Instagram followers. And the thing that I really enjoyed in this is that she references some of the things that I really dislike in Bridget Jones. So there's a lot of people who are like constantly staring at her boobs, or like, I don't know, there's just a lot of sexism in there that I don't think is ever pulled up, and that kind of bothered me. But in this, you kind of actually do get a reference to it, and one of those is, I just accepted that part and parcel of having a job was that my boss would stare freely at my breasts, not know my name, and ask me to put a tight dress on to make an idiotic speech. I suppose I did eventually turn around and tell them all to shove their job, but then I walked straight into another one with another person who does that, and who gave me my big break in television and still spent his entire time trying to get shots of my bum on my tits and generate ratings by humiliating me on camera. And I was glad that it was finally like something that was picked up on, because she doesn't really properly like say like stop it to people in the book, and it bothered me. So I was really glad that I read this. I think it gave a good insight into Bridget Jones, that kind of world. So they're all the things that I read for Jane Austen July. I actually had quite a nice Jane Austen-y type month. Really enjoyed rereading Pride and Prejudice again. I'm definitely going to be re-listening to that audiobook a lot, I can already tell. And yeah, I had a really nice time. Finished Mansfield Park, so that's off my little Jane Austen readathon thing that I've been doing for a while now. Really enjoyed it, glad that I read it. I've got Emma next to read, which I'm hoping to read this month. It's not even the next month yet, which I'm hoping to read in August. So these are the books that I read during Jane Austen July that were by Jane Austen. Then obviously we have a few extracts and Bridget Jones, and then the DVDs that I watched. So yeah, had a really great month. If you took part in Jane Austen July, let me know down below what you ended up reading or watching or whatever. And yeah, I will see you in my next video. Bye!